Good evening, folks. Welcome along to round number 8 of Season 5 of the Formula PlayStation League, which today sees us land 441 kilometres southwest of Brussels and the rustic town of Francorchamps for the Emirates Belgian Grand Prix. My name is Rob Kershaw. I'll be taking you through tonight's action as Nuth enters the last 3 races of the season as the world champion. 5 wins, 7 podiums from the first 7 races. Now the title's in the bag, will there be any stopping the Red Bull driver? Well, that remains to be seen, but his team, Red Bull's lead in the Constructors' Championship, sits at 30 points at the moment, coming into round 8, which means that the team's championship's still very much up for grabs, as somebody looks to topple Red Bull and knock them off their perch, and it's been a pretty high perch over the course of what has been a fascinating Season 5 in the FPSL. And it was a dominant victory in the United States Grand Prix last time out for Nuth that sealed him the championship. It took a restart, mind, but once we did eventually get going for the Grand Prix, it was a very good race indeed, and a spectacular way to see off the championship for Nuth. And of course the question for him will be now, defending it in Season 6. Before he can do that, can he take the victory in the last 3 races? He's turned off all the assists, I understand, for this Grand Prix, and whether that will play any part in his success or otherwise over the course of this 50% qualifying session, short qualifying session of the 50% race, that remains to be seen. It'll be a fascinating prospect indeed. Here, though, is Kasu in the McLaren on the medium compound tyre. He'll become the first driver of the session so far to set a lap. Of course, the short qualifying session, unlike the normal qualifying session where the tyres you actually set your fastest lap on are the tyres you'll start the Grand Prix in. So it's very much a case of you set the fastest lap, you push as hard as you possibly can on one set of tyre, and that's the tyre you start the race on. Unless, of course, you qualify outside of the top 10, in which case you can choose any compound of tyre you like. Kasu aiming to be in the top 10 and a little bit higher than P10 as well. In the McLaren, I would have thought. Kasu hasn't found it too hard to settle into McLaren in Season 5. He's been with us for 5 races, and 3 of those races he has finished in the points, and a cheeky little podium in there as well for Kasu. Can he grab one today? Of course, it'll be the reason with just the 14 drivers with us, he'll be very much aiming to get himself deep into the points and potentially in with a shot of a podium or a race victory, which he's still waiting for this year. And starting on the mediums, if he can qualify well, and then of course give himself a bit of a strategy option later on in the Grand Prix, that could very much play into his hands in terms of getting that podium finish. Trixky 142.5, and well, Vapor Nuth actually has just retired from the session as Kasu backs out of his lap. So he's decided that he wasn't entirely happy with that one, and he opts to back out of it rather than complete it. Here comes Shea round the bus stop chicane for the Williams driver and across the line. 142.8, 3/10 slower than Trixky, as he slots into P2. TDB splits the 2 of them. 142.7 for him. Sam crosses the line. 143.2. So quite a bit slower actually than his teammate. Shea Bazooka Joe slots into P5, 143.5 for him. And Button's back on a lap, and it looks as though he's picked up some front wing damage, so he'll have to go again as Trench in the Mercedes. 142.0 in the Silver Arrow, as Vapor King begins a lap in the Alfa Romeo. Up he goes towards Rouge and Radion. And now down the Kemmel Straight, It's one of the longest stretches of full throttle between turn 1 at the source and this braking zone here at Lake On, which Vapor King is wrestling that Alfa Romeo through now. As around he comes towards Rivage. So, well, Nuth having retired from the session, whether that's a deliberate retirement or whether he's crashed the car somewhere, I'm not entirely sure, as Vapor King really has to fight the back end on the exit of No Name Corner in towards the two left-handers of Pouan, which is very nearly flat out through there. Now Lafania chicane into the right and gets it turned in for the left before the two right-handers of Stabilo, as Williams just gets out of his way. And there's the first right, flat out through the second right of Stabilo. 9 drivers now with lap times. Trent still fastest. Jack Prentice has gone into 8th place, 143.9. Fashion, 144.1. So Vapor King's teammate Kasu has now set a lap for P5 in the McLaren. 7/10 off his teammate Trixky, who is 5/10 off the leader Trench. A brilliant lap from the Mercedes to open his account. King across the line now. It goes quicker still. 142.0 for him to set the very fastest lap time of this qualifying session so far, which just leaves Allsoppy and Buttons back left to set lap times, but it's very, very close. 0.06 of a second separating Trench and King at the top. Trench with 3 podiums to his name in the FPSL, and one of them was just the last race in the United States. Finishing second as Allsoppy really fights the back end. This is his outlap, so he's really trying to get heat into those tyres, and clearly the tyres very much fighting against him at the moment. But I guess he'd rather that sort of thing happen on the outlap than on the qualifying lap itself. Allsoppy with 6 races in the season so far. Just the 2 finishes in the points, but no DNFs, so consistently running near those points and very much capable of bagging them when the opportunity arises, and hoping to do so again here in the Emirates Belgian Grand Prix for round number 8 as he exits La Source. Up now towards Eau Rouge. Buttons back is headed back out onto the track, and hopefully this time he'll be able to finish the lap with his front wing fully intact, as Allsoppy brings at AlphaTauri with the DRS rear wing wide open down towards Lecom. So he gets slowed down for the right, uses all the curve he can in the left. A little bit of lag going on at the moment in that AlphaTauri. And down towards Rivage, the very long right-hander, which brings him into turn 10, the corner with No Name, which is of course a name in and of itself. I'll let you decide really whether that counts as having a name or whether it doesn't. Let me know in the comments whether No Name Corner is a name for a No Name Corner. Allsoppy into Lafania chicane, and once again AlphaTauri just lagging a little bit. Allsoppy, as I say, one of 2 drivers now yet to set lap times in the session. Buttons back is the other one. He's got a Ferrari of Bazooka Joe in front of him, who will not hold him up. I think he's going to be... yeah, he's going to let him go on the run in towards the bus stop chicane, as Allsoppy gets the car stopped and opens up the DRS on the exit and up towards the line for Allsoppy. And it is a 143.2 for the AlphaTauri driver to go into 8th place. So nestles himself into that top 10, as Bazooka Joe has begun a lap, as has Trixky, and there he is going into the left-hander of turn 10, using all the curb he possibly can on the inside and a little bit on the exit as well. And a downshift through Pouan. It's not quite flat even in qualifying. Pouan, I believe it has been done in real life by Lewis Hamilton, but very, very difficult to achieve, has to be said. Trixky's had a pretty good season so far. He's out-qualified his teammate Kasu 3 times. looking to make it a fourth and just match up those tallies a little bit, because Kasu's out-qualified him 4 times. It's been a really good qualifying battle between the two McLarens this year. Trixie P3, Kasu P7 at the moment, with 7/10 of a second separating them. Round the final corner comes Trixie, really sliding the back end out of the bus stop and across the line, and it is not an improvement, unfortunately for him, on that 142.3 that he set. I would think partly due to that slight back end loss that he had at the end of the run that he had there. Trench then was P1 a few moments ago, was knocked off at the top of the timesheets by the Alfa Romeo of Vapor King, and he's knocked off his front wing on the barrier on the exit of Rivage, and that is that lap ruined for the Mercedes. He'll have to come back round and put on a fresh set of tyres and a new front wing. Here's his teammate TDB, who has also lost his front wing. It's a day of Mercedes losing front wings at the moment. TDB's done it, and I think Vapor Trench decided to just follow suit. Didn't want his teammate to feel lonely out there. Sam in the Williams P4, 142.5. Vapor Shea, 142.5 as well. So it's always been close as well between the Williams cars this season. Shea out qualifying Sam 4-2 in the season so far, in the 6 races they've had together as teammates, as TDP runs very wide trying to get that car back into the pits. Right, here comes Buttons back. Meanwhile, he's coming towards the end of his lap. 8th place at the moment. And I think he'll know that he can probably just do a little bit better. He can probably squeeze a little bit more out of that Red Bull and try and get up towards the top 5. But as I say that, he backs out of the lap and comes into the pits. And there is Sam. He and his teammate Vapor Shea have broken into that top 5. So the 2 Williams cars doing very well indeed at the moment. Reese is headed out on an out lap in the Ferrari. There he is, currently sat in 7th place and looking to build on what was a brilliant podium finish finally in the United States. It's always been a good season qualifying wise. He's always qualified well, Reese, but then for some odd reason, whenever he's been running well in the Grand Prix, having been running well in qualifying, there's just always been something that's gone a little bit wrong and caused him a really awful bit of misfortune. But no such thing happened in the US. He managed to grab himself a very well-earned podium. And can he get another one this evening in Belgium? We are about to find out over the next hour or so that we have left with you here. Thank you very much for joining us. As usual, any comments that you have, any predictions for the Grand Prix, do let me know in the comments. Be very interesting as always. TDB has said, I don't know how I'm alive, so I guess it must have been a pretty big crash that he had. As round the first sector comes Reese and in towards Rivage. And there's a couple of lines you can take. You can take the narrow entrance or the wide entrance. Which one is quicker? I don't know. I'm just a commentator. I wouldn't know. Sorry about that. TDB went head first at Radion. Yeah, that's not a good idea. So yeah, the car surviving that miraculously. As round Stabilo comes Reese as he brings it through the second part. And then flat out as he makes his way down towards Blanchimont. I wasn't sure about Pouon. I know for a fact that Blanchimont is absolutely flat out. And it's not usually an overtaking opportunity unless you're Max Verstappen. As in towards the bus stop chicane goes Reese. Gets it slowed down and turned into the first apex. And then the second, good run through there for the Ferrari. Nice and clean. And manages to hold the back end together. And goes P1, 141.7. A really good lap from Reese. And that sends him soaring up to the top of the timing screens with an outstanding lap. That's a really brilliant run, that, from Reese. And that fully deserved P1 because it was a fantastic run around every corner of the lap. And will that be beaten? Well, it's pole at the moment by 0.3 of a second, or just under that. As Fashion runs slightly wide. And then wide again a little bit through Rivage, and as a result, backs out of the lap. It was just a little bit messy from the Alfa Romeo. Buttons back, begins a lap then in the Red Bull. As he brings that car up towards Eau Rouge. And then into Radion, where the DRS line awaits him on the exit. And he hurtles down the Kemmel straight in towards the chicane of Les Combes. I was about to say it's the first chicane of the circuit, but it's not really. Eau Rouge is the first chicane, using all the exit he possibly can on his run down towards Rivage. And that's the kind of variation I was talking about in terms of lines. You can go a little bit wider on the entrance, but that perhaps was a little too wide for Buttons Back's liking, because it looks as though he's backed out of the lap. Yeah, possibly just a little bit too wide. As Allsoppy, to the contrary, hugs the apex, brings his car into the left-hander of No Name. Still quite a bit of lag going on, unfortunately, on Allsoppy's end. In towards Poole, and he goes, and he spins, and clips the front wing. And no lag there. That was just Allsoppy pushing hard for lap time, and unfortunately for him, unable to extract it just at the moment. And that's puts him into the wall, and that will really mean the end of his qualifying with less than a minute to go. It's a long way back round to the pits. Trench then on the lap at the moment. Held P1 for a while. Reese is retired from the session. Of course, he hasn't got time to go again. And so, can Trench snatch pole from the Ferrari? Can King snatch pole from the Ferrari? Or will Reese, in that red car, have his first pole position of the season? It would be Trench's first pole of the season as well, actually. In the Mercedes, can he manage it? Or will Reese hang on after what was a sensational lap from him? It's looking like a very good lap as well, this from Trench, and it's hard to call. As he brings the car in towards Fania. Was that a bit wide in the first part? We'll see at the end of the lap. Here he comes into the two rights of Stabilo. And flat out now on the run in towards Blanchimont. Purple middle sector for Trench, as he brings that car down towards the final part, and as he goes through Blanchimont, he just starts to pick his braking point. And how late dare he brake into this final chicane? As he gets it turned in for the second part, has to just run it wide slightly to avoid the oversteer, but across the line, P2, it's the front row. It's not quite pole position. Here comes Vapor King. What can he do? As Shea goes P5, 142.4. Vapor King took pole in the USA. Or nearly took pole in the USA, I should say. Can he take pole in Belgium? No, he can't. Can't improve on P3. Here comes Trixky across the line. Only P4 for him. What about Sam? He's gone wide and invalidated his lap. And so he won't be taking pole position either. Now here comes TDB in the Mercedes. He's come back in. He's put on the new front wing. Is there going to be a new man on pole? TDB. No, P4. Just outside the front row. And Bazooka Joe now the only one left across the line in the Ferrari. We've got one Ferrari in P1. Is it going to be a Ferrari front row lockout? Is Bazooka Joe going to steal pole from his teammate? What's he going to get here as he rounds the bus stop chicane and up towards the line with DRS? And Bazooka Joe is not able to take pole position for the Emirates Belgian Grand Prix. It's 8th place for him, but it's pole position for his teammate Reese. A brilliant lap, his first pole of the season. Can he convert it into his first race victory? Reese then on pole, Trench in second, King in third for an Alfa Romeo, TDB fourth in the Mercedes, Trixky in P5. Shea takes 6 ahead of his teammate Sam. Outqualifies his teammate for the 5th time this year. Bazooka Joe in 8th, Kasu 9th. Jack Prentice rounds out the top 10 for Racing Point. Buttons back down in 11th. Disappointing qualifying for him. Allsoppy 12th. Fashion 13th, and Vapor Nuth, who retired early on in the session. The new world champion without a time down in P14. And how are the omens from starting from pole? Well, 53 races in Spa-Francorchamps, and I'm afraid to tell you, as far as Rees is concerned, only 21 victories have been had from pole position in that time. So odds, you would probably say, are fairly stacked against Rees in that regard. But having said that, there's been 13 wins from second and 19 from outside the front row. Which is fairly interesting. It's all pretty close in terms of which grid positions yield the most success. A part of that is due to the fact, of course, that racing in World Championship terms started in Belgium in the 1950s. It was a time when winning from pole position was a little bit harder to come by. There was normally a lot of wins from second. Reliability, of course, used to play a part in that as well. As Rees sets away on the formation lap. The first time this year that he's led us away. And will he be leading come the end of the race at the checkered flag? He'll, of course, have to negotiate the start of the first lap before he can worry about any of that. He's got Trench behind him, who is also very hungry indeed for his first win of the season. It's worth noting as well that there have only been 3 winners in Season 5, which have been Cam, Nuth and TDB, which perhaps leads to a bit of surprise that TDB is starting P4 behind his teammate Trench, but at the same time Trench has outqualified a teammate 3 times, which is equal with TDB in terms of direct competition with each other. TDB has outqualified Trench 3 times, and the opposite way has occurred just the once between those two in the Formula PlayStation League. But of course, all of that could pale into insignificance come the end of this Emirates Belgian Grand Prix. Qualifying, of course, is not everything. And will that prove the case here, or can Rees convert that pole position into race success here? 27 different winners in the 53 races, and a whole 15 different constructors as well have taken the win here. Probably the least familiar of which is the Eagle team. They've won here in the past, along with the likes of BRM, Renault, Benetton, and of course, who can forget Jordan, one of the 19 wins from outside the front row. After the dramatic start, and then the drama with Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard colliding before Damon Hill took the victory ahead of his teammate Ralf Schumacher. What a race that was. Are we set for an equally exciting and exhilarating Emirates Belgian Grand Prix here for round number 8? Well, we are just about to find out as we just wait for the final couple of drivers to line up on the grid, and then we can get underway for round number 8. We already have a world champion, but there's still quite a lot to play for. The Belgian Grand Prix is underway. It's a very, very good start from pole. As Sam gets pushed out wide in the Williams, and now Rees and Trench side by side. King trying to pass Rees into Eau Rouge, not going to happen on the first lap of the race, but Rees has lost the lead to the fast starting Trench, and already Trench is out of the race. Trench has spun out of the Grand Prix in the Mercedes, and he is out of the running. Virtual safety car deployed. That gives Rees the lead of the Grand Prix back in the Ferrari, and after what was initially A super start from the Mercedes of Trench. He is out of the running very early on here in Belgium. Reese then holds the lead. King in second. TDB in third. Bazooka Joe has gone from 8th to 4th off the start. Incredible start to the race for him. Casu in 5th. Trixky's fallen all the way down to P10 in the McLaren. So a lot of movers and shakers. One of them, by all accounts, really, has been Reese. But by the end of it, he still maintains his race lead. It was a great start. But the dive down the inside from Trench gave him the lead. But Trench lost it on the exit of Radion. And has exited this Belgian Grand Prix. It's such a shame for him because with Nuth running all the way down the order, it was really a chance for Trench from second place to try and grab himself a victory. And off the virtual safety car restart, TDB has got past Vapor King. I think he's just had to give the position back though. But now they're going to be very close indeed down towards the bus stop. Does TDB go for the late move down the inside? No, he doesn't. Not quite close enough. Got to be careful because Bazooka Joe is right there as well in the second Ferrari. After an exceptional start to the Grand Prix for him. Reese leads us on to lap 2. Here comes TDB down the inside on King. No, couldn't quite go for it, although King runs slightly wide. Bit of contact on the exit. And TDB just has to settle in time for the time being. There's Bazooka Joe behind, and then Fashion. I believe it is in the Alfa Romeo. Yes, well, I think it's... I can't really tell. Can't really tell who's who at the moment because the timing screens are all over the place. It is indeed Casu who is behind Bazooka Joe, as we just wait for the timing screen to sort themselves out as Reese leads King. TDB still just behind the Alfa Romeo for the time being. Meanwhile, Jack Prentice has come into the pits for Racing Point, and he's onto a set of the hard compound tyre, which I think puts him down in 13th place, I believe. Trixky. Oh, Jack Prentice spins into the wall and straight out of the pits, smashes his Racing Point out of the Grand Prix, and the safety car is deployed as a result. Well, he was looking for some sort of strategical advantage, was Jack Prentice, but he's come out of the pits and right the way into a Rouge, puts his car in the wall, and that does allow Trixky. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him, but it does allow him now to catch back up to the train and potentially try and save his race. So he's got the unfortunate Jack Prentice to thank for that one, who has put his car in the wall and become the second retirement from the Belgian Grand Prix. And it's all been a bit stop-start so far. The virtual safety car on lap 1. Now a full safety car on lap number 3. And this will provide... because, yeah, Reese does come into the pits, so they're pretty much all in the pits, apart from Allsoppy, who has stayed out, and Buttons back. Buttons back in the Red Bull. Also decides that staying out is the better option. Near enough, everybody else has come in. Luth has pitted for Red Bull. Oh, the Williams car's having to stack, so Sam... I believe is the one in the pits. Yeah, and Vapor Shay's having to wait for him. That's a nightmare. It's a real nightmare for Vapor Shay, who was having really to to just wait for his teammate to come out of the pits, and as a result, that's going to cost him an awful lot of time in the Williams. Of course, he will be able to just catch back up to the safety car train. That's not going to be a massive issue for him. But it will just mean he loses track position. And that puts him down to the very last of the current runners, of which we have 12 at the moment. And that all means that Allsoppy in the AlphaTauri leads the Grand Prix for a team that has 2 victories in Formula 1, both of them at Monza, one in 2008 and one of them as well this year, of course, with Pierre Gasly in the Italian Grand Prix, in what was a spectacular race Allsoppy then is, well, he's going to probably be the one to lead the drivers back away again when we get back to green flag racing after the safety car peels into the pits. But you just wonder whether he and Buttons back may regret that decision to stay out, and whether they might just decide that coming back into the pits might be the best option. But we'll wait to see on that. Safety car's still not going to be coming in just yet, so they'll have a bit of time now to think about that one. But of course, with everybody else having now caught back up to the train, it's going to be near enough impossible for them to change their minds at this point. And Allsoppy does continue. Buttons back, comes into the pits. Right, so he's decided that that call on the last lap wasn't the best one he possibly could have made. This will put him back down to the last of the runners, as it is at the moment. They'll be on fresh tyres, and he's actually changing his front wing as Buttons back. I'm just trying to see whether he actually really does have any damage on there. Obviously, I would assume he does because he's having it changed, but I wonder where that damage will have occurred for him. Out of the pits he comes then, and he'll have just a little bit of catching up to do to reach the safety car snake. Could call it a safety car crocodile or a train. Not too sure which word you use for it. Again, it's another thing. Let me know in the comments. Is it a snake? Is it a train? Is it a crocodile? Is it something else? Who knows? Anyway, safety car out for another lap. Of course, just 22 lap Grand Prix in what is a usual 308 kilometre race distance. But of course, with it being a 7-kilometre circuit, that means that there's just less laps that you can actually complete in that time. Also coupled with the fact that the average speed is very high as well around here. So all that put together just means that there's 44 laps in the F1 Grand Prix, and of course 22 laps in a 50% Grand Prix. So Reese then in second place. Now the Buttons back. I always have trouble saying that name for some reason. Now the Buttons back has come into the pits. King now occupies third. TDB in fourth. Kasu has actually jumped Bazooka Joe in the pit stops. So that's the McLaren at the fifth. Bazooka Joe down to sixth. Fashion in seventh in the second Alfa Romeo. Sam ahead of his teammate Vapor Shea, who had to wait for Sam to come into the pits. Nuth in ninth in the Red Bull. Of course, having started down in last. Trixky rounds up the top 10 right now. Shea in 11th and Buttons back in 12th. Right, safety car in this lap. So Allsoppy will control the pace through Blanchimon and in towards the bus stop chicane. And then it's just all about when he decides to go. But Reese really isn't with him, is he? But Allsoppy's just caught the safety car, which means he has to slow right the way back down again. And there's the reason. Oh, it's a half spin for TDB and a bit of front wing damage going on back there as well. That promotes Kasu and Bazooka Joe. And now Bazooka Joe trying to go down the inside. TDB's lost the back end again. Now he goes back down the inside of Kasu. Kasu runs wide. That allows Fashion to go past him as well. Can Sam take advantage of all this? Bazooka Joe is having to slow up a little bit for whatever reason, but TDB, after that half spin, has actually managed to get past all of them. Fashion in front of Bazooka Joe and Fashion as well. And I should say Kasu as well. Now it's going to be a massive train on the run down towards Les Combes as Fashion gets ahead of TDB. Can Bazooka Joe follow suit? No, he can't, because TDB goes round the outside and brilliantly gets the position back from the Alfa Romeo. Kasu having a look, Sam having a look behind him. Trixky as well, catching up to the back of this lot. Nuth behind, also just having a little look at Trixky. Oh, tries to go round the outside. That allows Vapor Shea down the inside of him. Very nearly contact between these two as Nuth defends the inside and stays ahead of the Williams. Really good racing between those two, managing to keep their cars on the track. And Nuth managing to just about hold on to that position after the overtake failed on the McLaren in front of Trixky. But a crazy safety car restart in the midfield as Bazooka Joe just runs slightly wide initially, and that just allows Kasu to close up to the back of him. And well, look how close he is. He's pushing him through the first, I should say, yeah, the first corner of Stavilo. And now here comes Kasu having a look at Bazooka Joe, and are they going to go side by side through Blanchimont? Yes, they are. Can Kasu make the move, stick around the outside? Looks like he can. That is exceptional. Outstanding move from the McLaren of Kasu. Gets past Bazooka Joe. Oh, and now look at Sam, who really has to think twice about that one, otherwise he's about to lose the back end. And meanwhile, out front, Suppi has lost the lead, and Trixie's out of the race. Trixie has retired from the Grand Prix in the McLaren. Nuth has had some drama somewhere as well, because he's ended up down in P12. So did he collide with Shea, I wonder? And more to the point, what's happened to Trixie? I'm not too sure what's happened to him, but he is out of this Belgian Grand Prix. TDB's come into the pits now for Mercedes. Yeah, I think he picked up front wing damage earlier on, didn't he? So he's had to come in, rejoins just in front of Nuth. And as a result, we've got yellow flags. Not quite a safety car just yet, but there is Reese. So he's retaken the lead from Suppi. Crucially for him, and even more crucially, Vapor King is still stuck behind the AlphaTauri. As through Pouan they go. Down towards Fania Chicane. And it's just difficult to find an overtaking spot through here. He'll have to wait until either the bust-up chicane or La Source at turn 1. Meanwhile, behind them, it's still very, very close in the midfield. Sam, who was just sticking his nose in, wasn't he, at the bust-up chicane last lap. Thought better of it. Still stuck behind Bazooka Joe. With his teammate Vapor Shea now right behind him. So Shea was held up in the pit stops due to Sam being in the box, and Shea is now right back in his teammate's wing mirrors. And looking to take that position from his teammate. Resets the fastest lap, 146.2. And here comes Sam, and here comes Shea. And is anybody going to be close enough for a move? No DRS just yet, of course, having just come back from the safety car. And Sam has to hold position for the time being. Can he set himself up for the move down the Camel Straight? It's so difficult to do so without the aid of DRS as they bring it up La Source. And Fashion comes into the pits in the Alfa Romeo. Was on the hard tyres, which you would have thought would probably be able to take him to the end of the Grand Prix, but clearly he's had some drama somewhere. Yes, he has, because he's had to change his front wing. So that's the reason he's not going to the end on that set of hard tyres, as Vapor King gets a penalty for exceeding track limits. And of course, all the while, he's being frustrated behind the AlphaTauri of Suppi, who still hasn't come into the pits. Now, if there's another safety car between now and the end of the Grand Prix, and Suppi still hasn't pitted, then of course that works beautifully for him, as he seeks his first podium of the season so far. As once again, Sam follows Bazooka Joe down towards Mafania. Just ever so slightly had to think about going defensive into the chicane with his teammate Shea right behind him as he just runs slightly wide. And Shea, there he is, just waiting to pounce on any mistake from the drivers in front of him. Kasu just in front of Bazooka Joe. Sam just in front of Shea. And is it going to be another move through Blanchimont? Yes, it is, as Shea gets past his teammate Sam. Sam has a look back down the inside into the bus stop. It's another spectacular overtake round the outside of Blanchimont. What a brilliant move that was, not once, but twice. And, well, they're making it look easy now. Max Verstappen, eat your heart out. It's happened twice already in this Belgian Grand Prix. Suppi at the moment still in front of Vapor King. DRS has been enabled on this lap. And is King? No, he's not really, is he? He's not close enough to the back of Suppi. And I don't think he was within DRS range as they cross the detection zone. As here comes Shea. And meanwhile, Sam is being targeted by Buttons back in the Red Bull. There is that Red Bull car. Buttons back after the opening exchanges is still in front of his teammate Nuth. Of course, after Nuth's dramas a couple of laps ago when he fell back down the order. That was right before Trixke's crash, which put him out of the Grand Prix. One of 3 retirements from this race. Trixke, Jack Prentice and Trench. Mies is... Well, it's Decenio. He's asking what happened at the start of the Grand Prix. Well, Trench, I'm pretty sure, put himself in the wall on the first lap. I was busy watching a couple of things behind him, but he had just taken the lead from Rees before he put himself in the wall. Jack Prentice then came into the pits, put on a set of hard tyres and straight away put his car in the barrier at Eau Rouge. And Trixke, I'm actually not sure what happened to Trixke. I have no idea how he ended up out of the Grand Prix, but he is the 3rd retirement from what is proving to be a slightly attritional Belgian Grand Prix thus far. Right, Bazooka Joe was caught up to Casu, and that's put him within DRS range. And look behind as well at the 2 Williams cars as Sam looks to get back ahead of Shea. Bazooka Joe tries to go around the outside. Oh, that's very nearly contact between Shea and Casu. And Shea, I think it was Sam and Casu. Actually, Shea manages to get ahead of his teammate. And Shea managing to hold position just as Sam had gotten ahead of him. Bit of understeer for Shea up through Radion, and look at Casu now trying to get himself back past the Ferrari of Bazooka Joe. Joe managed to get himself ahead of the McLaren, and now Casu gets himself back ahead of the Ferrari. And that battle for P4 changes hands once and changes hands again. And a little bit wide goes Bazooka Joe. Does that allow Shea in? Not quite. Has to stay behind him. As Buttons back looks intensely at this battle as well, as he looks to capitalise on this pack slowing each other up. Of course, there's no room for an overtake down towards Pouon unless you're already side by side off the exit of No Name Corner. You can see the Williams of Shea all over the back of the Ferrari of Bazooka Joe. Buttons back is testing Sam as well. Bazooka Joe's just gone slightly wide on the exit of Fania chicane and picks up a penalty in the process. Meanwhile, Shea is in the slipstream of the Ferrari, and we're not going to see another one, are we? Not another move into Blanchimont. Tucked into the slipstream. No, he's not quite close enough, is he? Not going to be able to get side by side just yet, but can he set up a move into the bus stop? Is he close enough for it? No, he's not. And into the pits now comes the leader, Rees, in the Ferrari. Currently on the soft tyres on lap 10, so a set of medium should probably take him to the end of the race. And he agrees onto the yellow wool tyre, but I believe he's got a front wing change as well as Rees by the looks of it. Yeah, the side jacks were on the car. That could cost him. King, remember, does have a penalty, which will play into Rees's hands come the end of the Grand Prix. And old Soppy is still out there at the moment, as you can see in the background there. Which is very interesting indeed for him. Meanwhile, here comes Shea having to defend from his teammate Sam. And down towards Lecombe. Sam down the inside. Oh, nearly contact. Shea stays ahead. And Sam tries to cut back underneath him, but there's no room for an overtake after you come out of Lecombe, as Buttons back continues to watch on at this battle. Through No Name Corner, there you go. Williams, the Mercedes powered cars. Mercedes Power has won 7 of the last 11 races at Belgium since 2010, and the only 2 hybrid era races here that Mercedes have failed to win have been 2014 with Daniel Ricciardo and 2018 with Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari. Mercedes have won 5 races in Belgium as a whole, and all of them but one were from pole position. And the one that wasn't from pole was Juan Manuel Fangio back in 1955, as here comes Buttons back trying to get round the outside of Sam into the bus stop chicane. It's another lovely move, and Sam has been done round the outside again. And this time it's Buttons back, getting past the Williams and into P6. Sam being forced now down to 7th place here in Belgium. And at the moment is also set to be outraced by his teammate Shea for the 6th time this season in the now 7 races that they will have had together as teammates. So it's That's a good record, that, for Shea. Meanwhile, here comes Bazooka Joe, getting closer and closer to Casu in front of him, setting a purple first sector as well, but not quite able to get close enough to overtake him just yet. Now, it's getting a little bit more overcast now in Francorchamps, so there's a potential threat of rain in the air. It's very wide goes Casu. Oh, just about holds on to third place in the Belgian Grand Prix. Bazooka Joe very nearly capitalised, but Casu recovered just in time to stop Joe from getting his car in front of the McLaren. As they bring it out of Pouan down towards Fania. And look how quickly Vaporche is catching up now to these two. And Bazooka Joe knows he has to get past this McLaren as quick as possible, because otherwise he's going to be under serious threat for the Williams. Vaporche looks very intent on picking up his third podium of the season. And once again, he's going to try and get side by side with a Ferrari in towards Blanchimont, but he's not quite close enough to go side by side with him there. Can Bazooka Joe get down the inside of Casu? No, again, not quite close enough. Shea as well has to just hang back for the time being as they bring their cars through the bus stop chicane. And Buttons back comes into the pits now for Red Bull. Soft tyres as well for him, having stopped under the safety car. And it's a set of mediums to take him to the end of the Belgian Grand Prix. Of course, this will mean that he gets the undercut as well on some of the runners around him. For example, Shea and Sam. And Bazooka Joe now, just a couple of tenths behind Casu. And this, surely now, is third place here for Bazooka Joe as he tries to go round the outside and brilliantly pulls it off. Lots of moves round the outside this evening. And the latest comes from Bazooka Joe as he gets past Casu and gets into the top three. Of course, it's the top three for now because Reese has come into the pits. However, Reese did have a front wing change, which could cost him the win. Could it cost him the podium places? Probably not, because he had a big enough lead, I would think, to mitigate that compared to the midfield runners, particularly because there's been quite a bit of battling going on amongst this lot as well, as Casu gets a penalty, and now Shea gets side by side with him, and it's another one round the outside of Fania. But Casu tries to fight it. Shea, though, has the inside for the next part of the chicane and gets ahead of the McLaren for fourth place. That's really important for Shea, that, because he was quicker than Bazooka Joe. And getting past Casu means that he can just set after the Ferrari before it's got too far out in front of him. So that's a really crucial move. And unfortunately for Casu, his fall down the order might not be done there, because Sam is the next driver waiting to pounce on the McLaren and try and take P5 away from Casu now as they bring it through the bus stop chicane. Safety car deployed because Buttons back has retired from the session, and that's great timing, isn't it, for All Soppy, because he's just come into the pits, and that's wonderful timing for him. I'm not sure, well, obviously he didn't know there was going to be a safety car out, and well, that's worked out beautifully because he was coming into the pits just as the safety car was deployed, and that is going to gain All Soppy an awful lot of track position. 4 drivers out of this Grand Prix. Buttons back is the latest. Buttons back's teammate Nuth has come into the pits, and the pit crew taking a very long time about setting on, putting on his fresh set of soft tyres, and away goes Nuth eventually. TDB and Fashion both into the pits as well, and All Soppy as a result has 7th place on fresh tyres. And this may cost Reese quite a lot as well, because depending on the gaps as the leaders get towards the pit lane, this could cost Reese the lead and potentially the podium places. This could work out beautifully for Vapor King because he has a 9-second lead now over Bazooka Joe in the Ferrari, which means he will be able to pit and probably rejoin still in the lead, given that Bazooka Joe and Vaporche and Casu and Sam will probably want to take advantage of the safety car by coming into the pits. But with the 16 seconds that lie between Sam and Reese, I would imagine here that Reese will probably lose the lead, which would be very undeserved for him because he's led this race impeccably thus far as King brings that car into the pits. There'll be no need for the hard tyres anymore, that's for sure. Now the question's going to be, does he go on to the softs or the mediums for the final stint? Nuth has been feeling brave. He's gone on to the softs. Old Soppy's on the softs as well. TDB on the medium tyres, along with King's teammate Fashion, but it is the soft compound tyre on for Vapor King, so it very clearly feels as though he can make those tyres go to the end. Right, Sam and Shay into the pits, and well, it's a bit of roles reversed now, because Shay is going to hold Sam up this time, and Sam's going to have to wait for Shay to go. There we go. And Reese, where is he? He is P3, so he's behind. Where is he? Yeah, he is P3, or is he P4? It's a bit of a battle, isn't it, with Shay, but he is P4, so yeah, he's lost out on the lead and the podium as well, because Bazooka Joe was also pitted, so that's a nightmare for Reese. He's on fresh tyres, but so is everybody else. And on the medium tyres as well, compared to softs around him, having pitted just a little bit earlier on. The safety car could not have come out at a worse time for Reese. He was always going to lose out track position-wise after that. And, of course, he's on the harder tyre as well, when everybody else is on fresh softs, or nearly everybody else is on fresh softs. In fact, a few drivers have opted to go to the mediums. Bazooka Joe and Shay have actually gone to the medium tyres. So they've had different thoughts to Vapor King, in that they believe the soft tyres aren't the best bet to go between now and the end of the Grand Prix. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think the soft tyres will make it to the end? And, of course, with the safety car coming out between now and the end, who do you think is going to win the Grand Prix? To those of you tuning into the stream at the moment, let me know in the comments who your race winner is. And, of course, let me know your driver of the day. But, very interesting indeed to hear all of your opinions and predictions between now and the end of this race, as we wait for the safety car to come back into the pits. Van Wall are another one of the 15 teams that have won here, along with Maserati. Alfa Romeo actually have had success back in the 1950s, in the very early days of Formula One. Red Bull themselves, since 2010, have 3 race victories to their name in Belgium, with Sebastian Vettel winning in 2011 and 2013, and then Daniel Ricciardo, of course, in the 2014 season. Decinio thinks the softs can go to the end, and the mediums will take a bit of time before they get up to temperature. Of course, when the safety car comes into the pits, we'll have about 6 or 7 laps of running. So there's only so long you can really wait for the mediums to come up to temperature before realising that the softs were probably the best bet. We will wait and see. Vapor King then in prime position to win this Grand Prix. Bazooka Joe started down in 8th place, currently up in 2nd. The safety car, of course, has helped him, but he got an immaculate start from 8th up to 4th on the first lap of the race, and now sitting up in 2nd for him. He's looking for his first podium as well, and his 6th points finish from 7 races. And I said at the top of the show in qualifying that Reese, or rather in top of the race on the formation lap, there's always just been something that has cost Reese the victory when he's qualified well. And he's out-qualified his team at Bazooka Joe 8 times now out of 8 races, but he's out-raced him just twice. And it's what I said earlier, when things just keep happening to Reese that are quite often out of his control, like this safety car that ended up putting him behind his teammate and out of the running for podiums and race wins. And he didn't get any of that misfortune last time in the United States. He was leading this race brilliantly from pole position here. But sadly for him, more misfortune with this safety car has befallen him, which is such a shame for Rees. Will he catch a break again in this season 5 of the Formula PlayStation League? Well, he may do. Safety car restarts in league racing on the F1 games always tend to give us a fair bit of drama, and anybody can capitalise on anything if the leaders trip each other up. Vapor King looking to get as good a restart as he possibly can as he slows down to wait for the safety car to come into the pit lane. Bazooka Joe watching his every move, trying to make sure that the Alfa Romeo can't get away from it as King picks his spot to go for it as he slows down ahead of the bus stop chicane. And he's gone for it now just before the braking zone as he gets it stopped in towards the bus stop. That's a really good restart there from Vapor King, and he's clear of Bazooka Joe off the restart. Bazooka Joe also has rather left Shea behind as well, so it's been a very good start for him. Meanwhile, Kasu has just fallen behind TDB. Now he's going to fall behind Sam, and TDB's got to slow down, as has Kasu. And I'll tell you what's happened there. There's been some overtaking before the start-finish line. And, of course, you're not allowed to overtake until the start-finish line. I believe what TDB has done there is overtaken Kasu before or on the safety car line, and Kasu has just left the session in the McLaren. And, well, there he is. His car is now ghosting. Meanwhile, behind, Vapor Nuth is down the inside of, around the outside of Fashion, I should say, and he gets past the Alfa Romeo. And now we'll just be able to ghost through Kasu, who's left the session. And, yeah, Fashion will get past him as well. But TDB got past the McLaren of Kasu at the safety car line. Didn't wait till the start-finish line, and that's why he had to give the position back and slow down, and that allowed Sam to get past both of them. And now Sam can try and set after Allsuppi in the AlphaTauri in front of him. Vapor King leading this Grand Prix from Bazooka Joe. An excellent restart. Nearly 3 seconds now between those two. And there is Vapor Shea just behind Bazooka Joe. And Rees is only just in front of Allsuppi, and Allsuppi gets in front of Rees. So the fresh soft tyres paying dividends there for Allsuppi, and he gets ahead of Rees, who is now down to P5. He's lost the lead, he's lost the top 3, now he's lost P4. This is such bad luck for Rees, and it looked for all the world as though the race win was his, but the safety car came out, and he had pitted before it, and as a result he lost out to the runners on fresh tyres. Such a shame for him, and now he's probably going to be a bit vulnerable to Sam, who is on fresh softs, compared to, of course, Bazooka Joe's now, Rees is now aging medium tyres. And Sam wants to get a move on in that respect, because look at Nuth really catching up to the Williams as they bring those cars down towards Rivage. Fashion hanging behind them as well. Then TDB down in 9th place in the Mercedes. And Vapor Shea has just got into within DRS range of the Ferrari of Bazooka Joe in front of him. Bazooka Joe set for his first podium of the season. Vapor King set for his first win and only his second podium, which would be very welcome for him in these last few races. As I said earlier, no drivers' championship incentive, but lots of constructors' incentive, that's for sure, because Red Bull, of course, came into this race with a 30-point lead in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes they've only got TDB running in P9 at the moment, set for 2 points. Williams are actually 116 points back from Red Bull. So yeah, Mercedes really the only team that have a hope in hell of stopping Red Bull, and it doesn't look as though, sadly for them, that is going to happen. Mercedes set to score 2 points, and Red Bull set to score 8 points, with Nuth running in 6th place. It could all change, of course, between that and the Grand Prix. As here comes Shea. No, not quite close enough to Bazooka Joe to try and make a move for 2nd place just yet. Meanwhile, Sam has just been passed by Nuth, so Vapor Nuth gets his Red Bull in front of Sam. Sam very, very awfully cuts the corner, and he just about manages, I think, to avoid getting a penalty there. Somehow, I don't know how, he gave the grass a good mowing there. Nuth now can set after Reese. And well, Reese will be wondering where it all went wrong for him. He'll probably know, but once again, just cursing his luck, which has been non-existent really so far this season. Certainly would have deserved the win, that's for sure. As Nuth now follows him out of Stabilo. And meanwhile, Vapor Shea is right behind Bazooka Joe. And he surely here is going to be close enough for a move down towards bus stop. No, doesn't go for it. What about Nuth? Oh, the other Ferrari of Reese. No, still not close enough to him. And of course, Nuth being a little bit stuck here behind Reese is just allowing Sam to catch back up to this pair. And once again, we follow Reese. Follow Shea, I should say. Following Joe. All Soppy just outside of the podium places in the AlphaTauri, but he's got Reese and Nuth and Sam all catching him at the moment. As out of Rally On comes Shea, and he's got DRS, and he's got the slipstream on Bazooka Joe. Is this going to be enough for 2nd place? I don't think so, actually. Bazooka Joe's got more than enough straight line speed to stay ahead. A really impressive setup going on there for the Ferrari. And Nuth just has to stay behind Reese for a few more corners as well. Not quite able to get himself in front of the Ferrari just yet. Sam also having to stick behind the Red Bull for the time being. Meanwhile, in the battle for 8th place, DDB is just behind Fashion. He's caught up to him. And with a result like this, of course, Red Bull aren't going to win the Constructors' Championship just yet. As it stands, this would give them a lead of 36 points with 2 races to go. Of course, 44 points up for grabs for the teams, with a 1-2 and, of course, fastest lap point as well. Which I think still belongs to Reese, as here comes Nuth side by side with Reese, and he gets past him. And now look at Sam as well. Takes full advantage of that and gets past Reese, and Reese now is down to 7th, and Sam dives down the inside of Nuth into the bus stop chicane. Can he get in front of the Red Bull? No, he can't. Nuth keeps his nose in front, but Sam now is going to have the chance to try and come back at him down towards La Source. No, just to stay in front for the time being. And in front of them, Shea still looking for a way past Bazooka Joe, and this is just allowing all Soppy to stay with this pair. And as a result, Vapor King is now nearly 8 seconds in front, out in the lead of the Emirates Belgian Grand Prix. Another reminder, let me know your driver of the day from this race. There's probably a couple of contenders in there. King would be one, Bazooka Joe would certainly be another. As probably would all Soppy in the AlphaTauri. And of course, Nuth started down in last, up to P5 at the moment. A few options in there. Let me know who you would pick as your driver of the day from this evening's race. He looks to set himself up. He's fairly quicker in the corners, just needs to find a way to get a good enough exit out of La Source that he can stay with Bazooka Joe just enough to cruise past him with the aid of DRS. Nuth as well is just behind the AlphaTauri of all Soppy. As Shea closes in on Reese, he's got the slipstream as they bring it through Blanchimont. And will it get to the point where he'll just get a little frustrated? Here comes Nuth. Nope, not quite close enough yet to all Soppy to go for the move into the bus stop. It's a very nice, clean run. Oh, it's a massive crash behind as TDB and Reese have made contact. And Fashion was involved in that as well. Fashion's out of the Grand Prix. TDB, I think, did he make contact with Reese? He might have done. But Reese spinning round as a result of that. And all the way down now to 9th place with front wing damage as well. Oh, it's a nightmare between those two. I'm not too sure who hit who and who spun round who, but in the end, TDB and Reese and Fashion all getting involved in the same incident in the background. And all coming a cropper. As Nuth now has gotten past all Soppy in amongst all that. Shea is still stuck behind Bazooka Joe. And Shea is now going to have Nuth on his tail before very long. As we head towards the final lap of the Grand Prix. Senio suggests that Vapor King is our driver of the day. I certainly wouldn't argue with that. Been a very solid performance from him, particularly since the safety car restart. As Nuth exits Stabilo. And the question is, who's going to take second place in this Belgian Grand Prix? Will Nuth take it having started from last? Will Vapor Shea manage to get past Bazooka Joe? Or will Joe hold both of them off and get himself a second place finish? Meanwhile, Sam's got past Allsoppy because Allsoppy spun in the AlphaTauri, and that allows TDB and Casu to get past him. Won't allow Reese to get past just yet because Reese is a little too far back, but oh, what a shame for Allsoppy, who's running right up the order, but one mistake has cost him everything. As Nuth now follows Vapor Shea up towards Eau Rouge, and Nuth is certainly closer to Shea than Shea is to Bazooka Joe. And TDB has been racing with Casu as well, but here comes Nuth side by side with Shea. Cruises past the Williams on the run down towards Les Combes. It's a podium at the moment for Nuth. Can he now take second place away from Bazooka Joe? He's not got very long to do so. And Casu and TDB still battling. Casu managing to get ahead of the Mercedes. And that's Casu now up to 6th place after all the dramas between Reese, TDB and Fashion earlier on, as Reese now manages to get ahead of Allsoppy with front wing damage as well. That's pretty impressive from him. We rejoin Nuth. And is there going to be any opportunity between now and the end of this race to take second place away from the Ferrari? Vapor King is just making his way up towards Blanchimont now. And there he is. Well, didn't start this race on pole, had that taken away from it by a combination of Reese and Trench, but since the safety car set on a new set of tyres, and since then, with blistering pace, wins the Belgian Grand Prix. Excellent drive from King. Now what about second place? Bazooka Joe just in front of Nuth, and he will hold on for his first podium of the season. Nuth in third. And yeah, Bazooka Joe does hold on because Nuth and Bazooka Joe have penalties. That promotes Shea up to second place in Belgium, but Bazooka Joe does get his first podium. Sam in 5th, TDB in 6th, Casu finishes 7th, Reese will eventually come home for 8th place. And well, that's ironic, isn't it? Because it was Reese who started on pole. His teammate Bazooka Joe started down in 8th. Bazooka Joe ends up on the podium, and it's Reese who finishes down in 8th place. Allsoppy will be the last one to finish. Vapor King was very much the first to finish. Took the lead after the safety car, extended the lead beautifully, and won with aplomb. It's King, the winner in Belgium. And deserved celebrations for the Alfa Romeo driver. Champagne is sprayed. King has 25 points in the bag. It's a Ferrari on the podium. Not the one we anticipated, though. Reese rather screwed over by the safety car, but Bazooka Joe excellently coming home in third from 8th place on the grid. It's King then who takes out the victory. Vapor Shade finishes second. Bazooka Joe rounds out the podium places for his first podium of the season in third. Nuth in fourth for Red Bull. Couldn't quite take the podium in the end because of his penalty. Sam in fifth for Williams. TDB finishes sixth. Kasu in seventh. Reese down in eighth after the safety car and of course then contact with TDB towards the end of the Grand Prix. Allsoppy finishes in ninth after his mistake towards the end. Fashion in the points, and then the retirements. Buttons back. Trixky, Jack Prentice and Vapor Trench all out of this Emirates Belgian Grand Prix for round number 8. We've had 8 races and 4 different winners in the process. King is the latest of those.